right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Mueller, and I am the Membership and Events Coordinator with the Medina Chamber of Commerce and the coordinator for the Medina County Safety Council. We're so excited that you are joining us today for our May meeting. Just as a reminder, we will be recording this and we will post all of these on our website. All of the prior meetings that we've held virtually have been posted on our website as well. We do ask that you please keep your microphones on mute and that you do turn your cameras off. If you do have any questions, you can pop them up in the chat box and I will relay those to Cari, our speaker, or we can handle those as Cari is speaking and giving the BWC update. So you can see on the screen where the chat box is, as well as how to mute and unmute your microphone and stop your video. So for today, for Safety Council, as always, we will start with our BWC update by Cari, and then you're going to recognize our speaker for today doing slips, trips, and falls. We will have a question and answer session at the end, so feel free to type those questions into the chat box as she's speaking, and we will relay those to her, and then we will adjourn. So Cari will give our BWC update.
Okay, so really excited, as I am every month, to be here. Cari Gray, BWC Safety Consultant. Right now, we are still virtual, and so if you need anything virtual, give me a call, shoot me an email, and we can help you with that. We do have a couple webinars coming up, so if you didn't get enough of me today by doing the updates and the topic, you can come to my webinar, which is next, I think it's next Tuesday or May 25th, whatever date that is. And I'll be talking about fatigue, so you can hear me then as well. And then we also have June 8th, OSHA, not what to do when OSHA's knocking at your door. So join us for those webinars. On the next slide, I want to say, yep. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this at the end of the presentation today, but y'all get a little bit of homework, okay? And there's 31 of us on here, so I really have high hopes for this group. We're going to be talking about what we were talking about on the fall stand down, and you have a little bit of homework, whether it's go out and do an audit or do some training for your folks in-house. And I'm going to ask that you all turn your challenge pages in afterwards, and you can send those to me or I'll send you other information. All right, and on the next slide, it's going to talk about the virtual classes that we have coming up. This is the ones that are coming in May and in June, and these are just like our in-person classes. They're, you can see on there, 3.5, 4 hours or so, and there's a whole bunch of different topics. So those are taught by folks like myself all around the state, so lots of options there. All right, and next, we have some of the resources, and actually I'm going to refer to a couple of those when I'm doing my talk in a minute. And we do have the micro training videos. We have sample programs, and especially one related to falls. That's a new one, and the safety talks, which we have one of those related to falls as well. So that is the resources. And next, I think am I going to introduce myself, Stephanie? Is that how I'm going to do it?
You can introduce yourself, Cari. No, we are very excited. We are very excited that Cari was willing to provide today's topic information. This is certainly a topic that is of great importance to all of our Safety Council members, and Cari was gracious enough to jump on and share this worthwhile information with us today. So certainly, as we said, if you do have questions as we go, pop those into the chat box. We will definitely save time at the end for those questions, and then we will again put Cari's information back up at the end of this. She is always willing to answer questions not only about this topic, but any other safety related topics. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it back over to Cari.
All right, so double duty today, and we're gonna talk about preventing falls. I will tell you honestly, this is one of the topics that we get a list almost every day of all the claims that happened in the Canton Service, Cambridge Service Office areas. And that is, I think, like 18 different counties, or I don't know, a whole bunch of different counties. And so we see the lists of all the injuries that come across in our area every single day, or almost every single day. And I will tell you that I've never looked at that list ever in all the time that we've got it and not seen at least one slip, trip, and fall. Okay, and you guys know this. So you guys out there, I would be surprised if there's anybody that can say, oh, we've never had a slip, trip, and fall, whether it caused a serious injury or it was just a minor. I would probably say every single one of you could probably say, oh, I've experienced a slip, trip, and fall, or somebody in your household, so that's pretty much a given. So we're operating with that idea in mind. And this is one of those topics that absolutely applies to every single person. Okay, so that being said, we're going to talk about what is the problem. We're going to talk about how do you fix it, which is through the hierarchy of controls. And then we're going to talk about the next step, which is code for your homework. And then there are a lot of resources out there that I'm going to provide you with as well. So what we're going to start with is I want you guys to put in the chat which industry in Ohio do you think leads with fall accidents? Okay, not fatalities, but fall accidents. So I need everybody to go ahead, take a second. I know we're not used to having to type in the chat, but I'm going to make you do some of the work today. Okay, so good. I see construction, office. What industry? Answer here. Oh, good, Stephanie, thank you. Construction, office, manufacturing, office, service, construction. All right, service, good. Manufacturing, good. Keep it coming, keep it coming. I know there's some some of us on there. Construction, good. All right, so I see construction, and everybody always goes towards construction. And we know construction has the majority of fatalities, and I will show you those in just a minute. But if we look at the data, you had it right. Okay, a couple of you had it right on there. Service. The service industry has the most falls out of all of them. Now, some of these are really small little outliers, but commercial and manufacturing, construction, they're all pretty similar, pretty close to numbers, but the service industry. And I will tell you, I teach a restaurant safety class, and slip, trips, and falls is one of the biggest issues in that industry. And it's all service, it's not just restaurants. So good job, good job. I appreciate you guys being involved for a little bit. And I'm sure I'll be asking you a little bit as we go to do that. Okay, so I said I was going to show you the construction or the fatalities in Ohio, and the majority of those are construction. This is the 5 fatal falls that we had last year. This is all over the entire state, not just in our area. We always have a couple off a roof every year. I do know for a fact one of those was in the Cleveland service office, so that was close to us. We have a crane failure. Somebody fell 150 feet. That sounds absolutely awful. A scaffold, they fell off of the scaffold, and then descending fixed stairs of a scissor lift, and they missed a step and fell backward and struck their head on the concrete. So that one was more service / manufacturing, commercial, that sort of thing. But 4 out of those 5 are definitely construction. So those of you that said construction, you are not wrong, because there's a lot of fatalities that deal with construction, and this is something that we unfortunately see every year. All right, so that being said, I showed you in Ohio what do those numbers look like, but I really, really encourage you to figure out what does it look like in your facility. Okay, if you can't sit there and just name those couple off the top of your head of, oh, I've had this, and this happen, maybe you focused on other injuries, maybe you're new to this position, whatever it is. If you don't know where those are off the right off the top of your head, then look at it. Go back and look at your injury rates. Go back and look at your OSHA logs. Talk to people. Okay, and not a novel idea, right? We want to talk to our folks, and we want to say, hey, do you know of any areas where folks have slipped, tripped, and fallen? Have we had this happen? And sometimes they may not report it, but they're going to tell you, oh yeah, over here, this is blah, blah, blah. They're going to come up with that kind of stuff. So you need to, we know in Ohio, whether you're one of those industries that we showed that are at the top or not, you still have this in your facility, or you still have this potential. So figure out what those are. We actually recently just did this presentation to a whole bunch of folks that work from home. This isn't something new, and it's not something that is immune to when you work at home. So if you have staff that work at home, it's still a conversation that you can have. One of the big focuses there is, what do you have around the home, like your animals that are always getting under your feet or things like that. So definitely a way you can approach it. All right, so a lot of times when I talk to folks about slip, trips, and falls, and if we're in a facility, or if I'm in a facility or having a conversation, and this is something that we see as a predominant issue, or I'm contacting them because I saw a claim they had in that, the overwhelming answer that I get from folks, or response that I get from folks is, well, yeah, we had that injury, but I don't know what I could do to prevent it. I don't think there's really that much that we could do. And that's what I want to show you today. And that's what I want to kind of dispel some of those myths and say, okay, there's a lot that you can do to prevent slip, trips, and falls. There is a lot. And so that's what we want you to think about is, one, we can do something, even if it's just training. And I get people say, oh, you want me to train somebody how to walk? And sometimes the answer is yes. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But you always have options. You always have something that you can do to help prevent slip, trips, and falls. All right, so anytime I look at any kind of safety fix, okay, and anytime you look at any kind of safety fix, you should always go back to the hierarchy of controls. Okay, the hierarchy of controls, whether you're looking at a minor incident and you're trying to figure out, oh, is this going to, or how am I going to prevent this from happening again? We're always going to start from the top and work to the bottom on this. Or if you're in a big, formal accident analysis or accident investigation, you're going to use this process here and this mindset of figuring out how do we prevent the injury from happening. So we always start at the top. We start with elimination, we start with substitution, sometimes those can be the same thing. And then we move down to engineering controls, administrative controls, and personal protective equipment. Okay, so anytime, whether it's slip, trips, and falls or anything that you're gonna do any kind of safety fix or any kind of safety improvement, you wanna think this way. Okay, and there's a really good reason for that. If we can eliminate or substitute out the problem, there's no need to worry about it anymore, period. Right? So perfect example, if we're looking at falls and we have to go up on the roof, well, if we can eliminate eliminate the fact that we have to go up on the roof, that might fix the issue, right? We don't worry about falling off the roof because nobody's up on the roof. Now, sometimes we can't do this, right? Sometimes we can't eliminate the hazard. All right, and that's where we move, or substitute the hazard. That's where we move on to the next step. But I always encourage folks to figure out, is there a way to remove the need to work at height? Okay, and that's fall from different heights we're looking at. But when we're looking at just walking around your facility, is there any way that we can get rid of transitions in our floor surfaces? Okay, and I think a lot of times folks they don't think about this, or it's just over, they just miss it, they're not thinking about it. But anytime we change the transition in our floor surface, say we go from carpet to concrete, say we go from hardwood to concrete, or we go hardwood to gravel, or we have a transition strip in our house to go from the carpet. You think about that transition strip from, the carpet to your hardwood floor. But anytime you change or have a transition in floor surface, you are dramatically increasing your chances of falling. Okay, now I know we have plenty of folks that just trip over their own feet, and we'll talk about some of that, but why make it so they can even do it more? All right, so removal of transition surfaces is a big deal. If we can use cameras and drones and different things to do inspections, and we don't have to go high up on those surfaces, that's good. I had one company years ago, they used to send their maintenance folks up on top of their machines, and they were 8-10 feet up in the air, and they put some cameras up, and then the folks didn't have to go up there to do inspections anymore. Huge elimination. That's the best way to go. All right, now, like I said, sometimes though we can't eliminate it. We can't do a substitution. And our next step where we want to go is we talk about engineering controls. Okay, so engineering controls are things like fall prevention. And when I talk about fall prevention, often I can mean fall protection, which, I'm putting on a harness and I'm keeping somebody from falling, or it's going to arrest them or stop. Or I'm putting up something like guardrails so they actually can't even fall at all. Okay, so we're looking at both of those. Those can fall under engineering controls. I have one company, and they're probably on here, that has done a phenomenal job of treating their floor surfaces with like a non-slip surface. Okay, they had a lot of slip and fall incidents. They got new flooring put over top of their concrete with this really awesome, it's kind of like gritty, and it keeps you, it really holds onto your feet and keeps you from slipping around. So that's one thing. And there's even temporary treatments that you can do. You can, there's stuff that goes in washes. And I've seen folks, I know when I was at General Electric, we did some acid etching of a facility, of an area, because we had graphite and everything was really super slick. So we did some acid etching. So there was some just changing texture to the floor so folks didn't fall. I've seen some stuff, it's been a while, but I've seen some stuff that you can put in the wash, in the floor cleaning service washes, and you got to add it or put it on every whatever frequency, but I've seen that can offer a little bit of slip. I already talked about change in floor surfaces. So anytime that you can make, if you have to have them, you want to make them as smooth as possible. I think about my mother-in-law's house, and they just moved, and they have, like, I don't know if it was an addition to the house, but the going from the living room to the kitchen is like almost 1.5 inches, and they have a transition strip there, but I swear my mother-in-law almost falls every time she's going down that. She almost needs a ramp on it. So, you know, where do you have those areas, and how can you make them as smooth as possible? Dock locks, okay, those can be things and tools in engineering. Improve lighting, and so that can fall maybe under administrative controls or engineering, but if you improve the lighting, you decrease the chances of folks falling. And that's true in parking lots, that's true on steps, that's true in just your general work surface. So keep that in mind. Just to show you a couple of these. So this is a common mezzanine, right? So sometimes you'll even have a gate up here. The gate will swing in when it's got stuff on it, it swings out, but those can be left open. Now this, you know, technically we're supposed to have 3 parts to our guardrail, right? With top, mid, and bottom, or toe board. And this with the chain, we don't look like we have that. And that chain has to be able to withstand a 200 pounds of outward force. So keep that in mind. But the problem is these are kind of a pain because somebody has to get really close to that in order to take that chain back and forth, right? So you're exposing someone to the fall. Now, one thing that I'm starting to see a whole lot is this flipper guard. Okay, so this is something that is built into the mezzanine up top, and you can see it flips open. You can put your product on there. You push it up from the inside, and it guards you, and you can pull your product off, and even when that skid gets empty. Now, again, I understand this costs a little bit. It's a little bit more expensive than that chain, or probably a lot more expensive than that chain. I've seen some folks even make their own of these. You know, you can just see it's just on a pivot there. But, you know, you can buy these, and that's something that you can put in your facility. And this can keep your folks from having to be exposed to that fall to put that chain, or sometimes you can see the removable guardrails. So you can get rid of that too. So I talked about lighting, and you can see on the left there, I don't know if those are even going up or down, but I don't want to go down those steps. I don't know about you guys, but on the right-hand side, even though those are outdoor steps, you can see that it's put some pathway lighting, and it's going to make a big impact on whether or not folks slip, trip, and fall. Now, not to say you could still do everything that's perfectly right, and you still want to do a little bit of training to make sure that folks do and are walking up and down the steps in the proper way. Okay, so change the floor surface. We can see just in this picture alone, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe more changes of floor surface. And either 1, you keep your folks from being in there, or 2, you try to fix some of these out, or you can put covers over them or whatever. It just depends on the circumstance. But you want to try to reduce the changes in floor surfaces. That's a big one to really focus on. Okay, so we talked about elimination and substitution. We talked about engineering controls. And the next thing in that triangle there is administrative. Okay, and administrative is still doing something, but I always encourage folks, yeah, you want to try to engineer it out first. You want to try to eliminate or substitute. This is where we're going, not last line of defense, that's personal protective equipment, but it's close to it. All right, so with these, we want to make sure that 1, we have a policy on falls, especially if you have folks using harnesses, or you have folks going up with their feet, 4 or 6 feet up off the ground, depending on your industry. We want to have reporting policies, so we want to make sure that folks will report injuries timely, and so we can deal with those and we can correct the issue as well. But we want to look at these sorts of things, so I will go through these. All right, so I had mentioned a policy. We want to have a reporting policy, which is separate. And if you don't have any of this stuff, or you're missing parts of it, or you don't like what you have, 100%, reach out to me. This is what I'm doing. I'm here to help you. I'll send you examples of all this. I have a really good resources page after this. After we're done, that'll get sent out afterwards. And it has templates to the Ohio BWC sample programs. So we have a whole bunch of programs, and there's more coming out all the time. Things like hazard communication, this falls one, we just got this out last week in time for the stand down for falls. There's respirator programs and lockout tagout sample programs, and they're all designed for you to take and enhance and implement. And if you need help, that's what we're here for. So good idea to have a written policy on falls and on dealing with falls in your workplace. The next thing, and this is something that probably out of all the stuff that, I'm going to tell you today, this is the one that I think is probably going to make the most and the biggest impact. Okay. And that is to walk around and specifically just look for things you can slip, trip, and fall. And that's it. You're looking only for those things. Now, of course, if you see somebody like not locking out or something, you're probably going to do something about it. And that's okay. Then start over and come back and look just for things that you can slip, trip, and fall. And I would guarantee that if every single one of you, as soon as we got done with this, went out and walked around your facility, you will find things that you just have stepped over before, things that have become background that you're not noticing. And it doesn't take me to see those things. You guys, every single one of you out there, you can walk around and you can see these things. It's not rocket science, but with this one specifically, you have to directly and only look for these things because you will really find them. Okay, I'm talking about transition in your floor surfaces. I'm talking about stuff on your steps or, ladders. We'll talk about ladders in just a minute. Housekeeping, junk laying on your floor, stuff like that. These are the things that a lot of times we just walk by and they just become background and we stop focusing on them. And so I really encourage everyone to do this. And this is something that when I give you the homework, you have to choice of one of two things. So I like this one, but doing the training is also good. But that's something that probably a lot of you have done over the last couple of years. And, we've been asking you to do those over the last couple of years during the stand down. So find the things, fix the things, track it to completion, just like you would for anything else. But go look just specifically for these kind of items. You will find them. And you might even shock yourself. It's going to be a little bit surprising. All right. So who wants to work at this location, right? And if you think of some of the more messy places in your plan or places in your facility or even places in your barn or your shed, or those messy places is one, more likely where we're going to get hurt or have issues or have injuries or have near misses. But two, it just doesn't give you a good feeling, right? If you're working in a nice and clean and fresh environment, you're going to work harder. You're going to feel better about it. And you're dramatically going to reduce the opportunity for folks to slip, trip, and fall. And so keep that in mind. And here we can see a lot of things, right? We can see changes in floor surfaces, and drains can be good, right? We want to have drains on there, but we want to make sure that they're marked and we're aware of them and things like that, because we certainly don't want to trip over them. Set your expectations, do your inspections. I like competitions for housekeeping. Those are always fun, but whatever works, okay? Everybody's going to be a little bit different. All right, so the last couple of years, if you remember, we were doing a really big push to do training for slip, trips, and falls. Okay, and there's training about reporting. There's a general awareness training. There's training folks on how to walk, right? Believe it or not, we want to teach folks to walk like a duck, walk like a penguin, especially if it's icy or slippery or, any other changes in floor surfaces. We want folks to pay attention. We want them, if you ever think, okay, you're trying to walk up a hill of some sort, probably not at work, probably, in your personal life, but when you walk up a hill, if it's steep enough, you're going to widen your stance and you're going to do more shuffling. It's the same thing in teaching people that. I have one company that teaches hands-free, hands out of pocket. So when you're walking, don't walk around with your hands in your pocket because it can increase your chances of falling. Silly one too is I like to talk a little bit about knowing how to fall. I grew up a gymnast, so the first thing that you learned was how to fall, right? You're going to fall off of every piece of equipment that there is, so you got to know how to fall. And it's funny because even, being older like I am, if I fall, I rarely get hurt. And it's more because I don't ever push my arms out and I never, catch myself with my arms or catch myself with my legs. Honestly, I kind of just curl into a ball and fall over. And they laugh at me, but then I never get hurt. As opposed to my husband, who about a year ago slipped down the steps. Nothing was on there. It was just carpet, slips down the steps, puts his hand out and ended up breaking his thumb. And I'm embarrassed to say, but I fall down the steps sometimes because, you know, feet issues or whatever, and I just kind of roll and I'm fine. So you're laughing at me. Don't laugh at me, but that's okay. All right, the last part of training, and this is a newer one, and this is interesting. All right, and this is about balance. So there's going to be a link that is in the resources page, and there's this video on the safety and health. It's like a newsletter organization, and they put out this balance video, and it's this girl, and I believe she's an athletic trainer or some sort of trainer, and she's teaching you exercises that you can do to help improve your balance. Now, don't let your folks get hurt, or if you're going to do these afterwards, don't get hurt doing it, obviously, right? We don't want you to fall. Make sure you can grab something, you know, you're next to a wall or a chair or something like that in case you need to hold on to something, steady yourself. But it's fascinating because the more and better balance you have, the less likely you are to fall. And, you know, kind of makes sense. If you've ever had vertigo, the biggest risk is falling, right? And the older that we get, for a lot of reasons, we are more likely to have balance issues, and then we're more likely to fall. And so this is a couple, it's just activities to try to improve balance, and that's going to help us all around prevent falls. So that's kind of a neat new one, but don't let your folks get hurt doing it. All right, so I said I'd talk about ladders. With ladders, I've heard, and you've probably heard Howie, the area director out of the Cleveland office of OSHA, say you want to have a ladder written program. Okay, the standard doesn't require that, but man, it's a really good idea. Okay, so you want to have a ladder written program. You want to do care and inspection of those ladders. You want to manage proper use. You know, you want to make sure your folks are doing it right. You want to do training. You want to do observations. And heck, if you can, try to substitute or eliminate the use of ladders. Anybody out there in construction, or if you've had much to do with construction recently, there's a lot of the bigger generals that are not allowing ladder use on their job sites. And if you're going to have to use a ladder because you can't use anything else, then you have, you know, certain permits and things that you have to do and jump through. So ladders in the construction industry, you know, a lot of times folks are trying to get rid of them just because we have so many risks when we're dealing with ladders. Okay, so tell me, I'll give you a second. We're doing pretty good on time. Tell me what's wrong with this picture. Go ahead and put it in chat. You know, just a word or two other than the smiley face on top of there. Tell me something that you see is wrong with this picture. All right. So we'll give you a second. I know you're all chat or getting ready and you're typing in the chat. I'll get a drink because I talk fast. All right, no one holding the ladder. Really good one. The ladder's backwards. Okay, very good. He's not facing the ladder. The ladder's in the wrong position. Now, if you look at it, very good. Look at you guys in proper use. The ladder the wrong way. You guys are awesome. Not on an even surface. That's where I was going to go first, Jacob. That's great. So you can see that little concrete. You can't see the bottom of the ladder in this picture, but you can tell that the ladder is kind of, you know, up a little bit. It's not, you know, yeah, you can see he's got a cord wrapped around him. Really good ones on. That's a good catch. Definitely not the way that I would want to be working on this ladder. Yep, the cord with the trip hazard, 100%. And he is, bottom line, using this ladder wrong. Now, don't forget, he's got a coworker right there next to him. We can see right below the ladder that's working on whatever it is he's working on. And, you know, hey, if that guy falls and I watched it or I witnessed it and I didn't say anything about, we know the fact that he's doing this improperly, I'm going to feel terrible about it. So when you're talking to your employees about it, and you can just get one picture and show them, and it's going to create all this discussion, talk about how you would feel if you were the guy that's down there messing with those boxes, and this guy falls off to the ladder and hits his head on the concrete underneath his tank. I mean, I'm going to feel terrible, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that would go there. All right, so we're going to do that one more time. Yay. All right, one more time. What's wrong with this one? All right, so this is inside of a building, and there's plenty wrong, right? We see that. I'll give you a second to put some stuff in there. All right, you guys are awesome. So the ladder is leaning against the window. Exactly, duh, right? We know that that is not something we would want to, because you know you can't take that A-frame ladder and open it up, because then he can't reach the ladder or the window or whatever it is that he's doing. But if you take that ladder and turn it, okay, so there is a good point, Dave. So there is some ladders that are designed to be leaned like that. All right, and I don't think that this is one, but those are out there. The ladder's not extended, right? It's not open, so you'd want to open it and turn it sideways. All right, any other safety issues that we see in here? Any other issues that we have in this picture? It looks like we've got some rat's nest of wires up here, but you know, you want to make sure wherever he is, and it looks like this might be ground level, so I'm not too worried about if he falls out this window. But you know, we also got to keep in how far and how high can we go up on a ladder as far as the steps go. It looks like these are all A-frame ladders, and he might have needed a straight ladder or something else. Yeah, the other ones are stored pretty crummy, so we want to make sure that those are secured and upright or laying down so they can't fall on anybody. So good finds, guys. That is awesome. All right, so this one is pretty obvious, right? So we know that we definitely don't want to put ladders on steps, first of all. We can see that this is probably used all the time, would be my guess, because the wood block that the one leg's propped up on top of is actually secured. It's like got a tie down at the bottom there. So we definitely are using this all the time. And here is an issue where we have to either engineer out or substitute it. This is not acceptable. This is not an option. But a lot of times these are those, we just walk right by them because that's how we've always done it. And that's not the solution. That's not where we can go. So definitely, you know, showing you one, and we've got that cord and the light and all the other fun things in there. So lots of issues with that one too. All right, so just to show you a couple things that you can either substitute, eliminate, or even engineer out from a ladder standpoint. There's a couple different kinds of things now. One, you know, scissor lifts are not new. Articulating booms are not new. There's some new standards out around those, but you know, those are going to prevent the use of ladders. And inside those cages, you're a lot safer than you would be climbing up and down the ladder. So that's always good if you can afford it. The other thing that I am seeing is I'm seeing folks go towards the ladders that kind of like take out the opportunity for error. Okay, so if you look at the ladder all the way on the left, it's a 6-foot ladder, but we know on a 6-foot ladder, you can't use the top step and you can't use the second to a top step because it says not a step on it. And so that there is as high as you could go up, and it gives you a larger platform to work from. All right, so I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the extension things are pretty neat. So a straight ladder, we know, has to extend 3 feet up above wherever it is that we're climbing, so we have a surface to hold on to. But the problem I've always seen with that is, well, you have just a straight ladder, and then you got to kind of climb around the ladder to get onto the roof or whatever the surface is. And these extensions right there, the one right next to the scissor lift, that's a pretty neat opportunity, and it's going to give your folks something to hold on to. But that only works good or it only works as long as the surface that the ladder is on is pretty good and secure. And whenever possible, you want to lash that ladder and keep it secured and tied off so it doesn't kick back out. So those are some ideas for that. The other thing that we want to think about from an administrative control is, you know, we won't talk about the 4-letter word of snow right now, but, you know, rain's a big issue, especially in the spring. We want to make sure that we have a policy around what do we do if there's flooding? What do we do if there's standing water in our parking lot? What do we do if there's snow and ice? How do we make sure somebody checks it out? You know, that sort of thing. What kind of training are we going to do around this? Are we doing observations? Can we eliminate? Now, if you look at that picture, probably like the worst of all the worlds, right? So if we look at that picture, it looks like the draining downspout actually is putting water right out to in front of the steps. Okay, so if it's raining, you're pouring all your water right out into your steps. And I have a school, maybe on here, but the person that would be on here probably wouldn't remember this, or wasn't there when this happened, but they had a bus in their bus garage, the building that they had where everybody would pick up all their stuff, and in that the downspouting basically spit out right to in front of where everybody walks in and out, where the buses are. So it would spit out water, and then it would get cold, and it would make this big sheet of ice that you could ice skate in the parking lot. And it took a couple years because they had to get it approved budget-wise, but they dug a trench and the water runs now underneath the actual concrete, and you don't get this big, huge puddle. And they had at least a person a year slip on this and get hurt. And so eliminating that injury, it was pretty awesome. All right, so if we go back in our head to the triangle, the hierarchy of controls. We started with elimination substitution, we did engineering, we did administrative controls. Our last line, our absolute last line of defense is PPE, personal protective equipment. And things like wearing the right shoes, things like if you're going in and out, wearing sunglasses, and fall protection equipment. If you have to be up unprotected and there's an exposure to fall and there's nothing else you can do, you have to do fall protection equipment. Examples would be, you know, your harness, your lanyard. Man, if you can go retractable lanyard instead of the 6-foot, you know, lanyard, you're going to be so much better off. I know those cost a little bit more, but it's going to reduce the length of fall. It's going to, you know, help keep folks from getting tangled up, things like that. Now, we have a really good webinar that we did, it's been a couple months ago, and it's in the resources page. I talk about it in the resources page that we're going to send you, and it's things that you should inspect for your fall arrest equipment. And so if you have those, then you definitely want to check out that webinar, and it's going to give you a lot of good information. And so one of our folks, Eric White, he is phenomenal with anything fall protection. So definitely something to think about and to talk about and to watch if you do have those issues. All right, so I'm going to get you all out of here early, right? But you have to do me a favor, and that favor is your homework. And so last week was the stand down, the national stand down to prevent falls. And part of that is we at the BWC, we put a challenge out there. We did a webinar. We've put it out a couple other ways, but we want you to do one of two things. Okay, we need you to do one of two things. We need you to either one, do a scavenger hunt, and that's that audit. You know, get anybody, if you want other people to participate, that's great. If you can't, go out and just look for this stuff. Okay, I'm giving you an extra probably 15 minutes by the time we're all done. All right, so just go do that for 15 minutes and fill out this sheet. Okay, and even if you don't fill out the sheet, just go and do that walkthrough. All right, or if you want to, like we've done the last couple years, train your folks on how to walk, how to fall, how to do balance, how to look for issues, anything with slip, trips, and falls, and track that. So we're going to send you this sheet because I know it's really small and I don't expect you to write it all down or remember all that stuff. So we're going to send you this sheet, and we're going to send you the resources. And the resources page, like I said, it's awesome. It has links to the sample written program and all of our written programs. We put together 2 micro training videos that got released last week. One is about just when do you need fall protection? Okay, so it could be in a nutshell, it was general industry. If your feet are above 4 feet, construction. If your feet are above 6 feet, you probably need some sort of fall protection. We also got a micro video released for safety on the steps. So if you have a lot of steps in your facility or a lot of issues with steps, that could be some of the training or some of the information that you use to do the training. And it's micro videos, so they're all under 5 minutes. They're meant to be used short term, send them out, have folks, get back to you, that sort of thing. The webinar that I talked about, the inspecting fall equipment, the safety talks. If you want to do training, grab one of the safety talks and all the homework's done for you. In the written program is audit checklists. If you actually would like to have, okay, look for this, or there's also a link for a whole bunch of ladder checklists. But if you don't have a ladder checklist, look at whatever your ladder is and go to their website, and chances are they're going to have a checklist for you. And then finally, the balance resources. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff on there. But, in a nutshell, that's what is out there for you to see. So at this time, if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I think, lots of good resources here. Again, I beg of you, go out and try to find these things. Okay, we all know if you've ever been the one that's hurt, whether it's work related or not, it's not fun. It's awful. It's going to impact every part of your life. And whether it's hurt from slip, trip, and fall or a machine guarding issue or whatever the issue is, if you can do something to prevent it and keep it from happening to one person or anybody else, why wouldn't you do that? You know, I know you guys all would. I know all you guys out there, you're all good people. You want to keep people from getting hurt. And so here's an opportunity to do it. So I'm not seeing any questions. Stephanie, did you get any directly to you? You can probably hear one of my chickens like screaming in the background for no reason.
No, I don't see any. I did not get any direct questions to me either.
Okay. All right. So I think I've talked long enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate your guys' time. This is going to be recorded. I know Stephanie has the information for my contact and her contact. We are 100% here for you. Know that if you need anything, always ready. And Stephanie's always quick at getting information for us.
And then I did pop up, so our next Safety Council meeting will be Tuesday, June 15th from 12 to 1. Virtual, we are going to be talking about severe weather safety and skywarn spotting as well. So kind of a fun and unique topic. We are going to be giving away some weather radios for that. So if you are in attendance, you will have the opportunity to win a weather radio for your business. So you'll see that pop up for registration probably in the next week. And then as a reminder, we did record this, so I will send an email out with a link to this, as well as that document that Cari would like you to complete for the scavenger hunt or your training purposes.
Awesome. All right. That's all I got, guys.
Perfect. Well, Cari, thank you again for jumping in today. Great topic, great information, and everybody please get out and take a look and open your eyes as you are walking around your workplace, wherever that might be. Again, feel free to reach out to Cari or myself with any questions, but we look forward to seeing all of you next month.
Thanks, guys.